Anytime you have a discussion about veganism, it needs to be held with an open mind. Now, it should be obvious to some, but I do care a great deal about the vegan movement and community, and would love to invite you to come and sit at the table, for the table is long and there are many chairs, as I have said in a number of podcasts already. Now, consider this a little bit of a trigger warning, because what I love about my guest's approach to activism can also be treacherous for some. So keep in mind that although these subjects are incredibly passionate, please know that that passion comes exclusively from a place of love. My guest today is an ex-deer hunter turned vegan activist. He trains powerlifting and jiu-jitsu, and due to that somewhat uncommon profile, he offers a very unique perspective on the conversation that surrounds veganism. Today we discuss everything from vegan tattoos to the moral foundations of which the vegan philosophy is built upon. And we also dive into the comments section and listen to some of his rebuttals. Please subscribe to this channel and podcast if this is something that you enjoy, because 2025 is going to continue to be a very exciting year, of which I hope to bring you even more interesting conversations and unique perspectives. So, without further ado, please enjoy my conversation with Hunter, Empty Cages. Awesome. So let's go ahead and dive in. Tell us a little bit about your personal background. Was there a canon event that brought you to veganism, or was it a slow transition over time?
Yeah, so I'll start with my background, then I'll get to how I kind of became vegan. It's actually a pretty boring, simple story, but just to give a little bit of my background, I was raised a deer hunter in a deer hunting family. I mean, my name's literally Hunter. Went to deer camp every year. It's something I really looked forward to. I still go up there. I just obviously don't hunt now. Just play cards and get drunk with my uncles and shit. But
that's all vegan friendly. Yeah.
What's that?
I said that's all vegan friendly.
Yeah. Exactly. So it was would have been my first year out of high school, because I only went to college for a year, but the year I did go to college, I actually wrote a paper against veganism because I just thought it was so stupid, to be honest with you. And then one day I was kind of just scrolling through Facebook, and I seen this post about, it had something to do with veganism. I can't remember exactly what, but I clicked on it, and I clicked on it because I just wanted to see all these stupid hippy dippy vegans getting owned in the comment section, whatever, meat eater thing. It's weird, I guess. So I was scrolling through, and that's not what I saw. There's some guy just just being real factual, responding to everything, being very polite, and at the end of the day, I realized all the meat eaters had to say was, bacon. And that wasn't good enough for me. So I looked into it, and I was wow, we don't need to be eating animals. It's bad for the environment. It's bad for zoonotic disease, bad for antibiotic resistance, obviously bad for the animals. And once I kind of realized we didn't need to eat meat, I was I can't really justify this any further, because believe it or not, it's kind of embarrassing, but my entire life, I truly thought we had to eat meat to be healthy. I really did, until I saw it.
Yeah, so many people believe that same exact thing. You are definitely not alone in that. I used to think that too. I've been vegan now for 10 years. But before I was vegan, I legitimately thought that, because I had dated someone who went vegan for 2 months, and she started having hair fall out, and I was it's the vegan diet, 100%.
Yeah.
But
Wow.
Come to learn and thinking back about it, now that I know a little bit more, it's she ate maybe 800 calories a day when she was doing vegan.
That's exactly what I was going to say. It's probably under eating calories.
Almost every single circumstance.
Especially with the raw crowd, the people who only eat raw, uncooked food, you see it all the time. They under eat calories. And that's the main symptom, is the losing the hair.
Oh yeah, it's crazy. I don't know if you've looked at a lot of the content that I've posted, but I've done a lot of raw content too, because weirdly enough, I did spend a year and a half as a raw vegan. That was my introduction to veganism.
Oh wow, okay.
Yeah, and even still, I'll go a couple months just eating 100% raw, but I always tell people in every circumstance, if they're thinking about doing it, I'm think twice about it, and it's a hard diet. Vegan isn't hard. You can do vegan pretty easily. Raw is hard. But the thing that makes raw hard is because, if you think you're eating 2,000 calories,
yes,
you should plug it in, because I guarantee you're probably at 1,200 and you're full. And it's like
Exactly.
you
You
have
can
to.
do it. You just really, really got to like make sure you're eating enough for that exact reason. Because eating cooked food, you can eat so much more of it.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. It's like one of the recipes that I have on raw is like something that I consider a staple if anybody's doing raw, and it's like it actually requires 4 cups of green peas. And like you
Oh
blend
yeah.
them up into like a pea soup, and it's like otherwise you quite literally would be a little bit low on the protein side, you'd be a little bit low on the overall calorie side. Like it's tough to stay balanced like doing raw. But yeah, it is unfortunate. That was also like I feel like raw was really big in like 2014 or 15, and there's just a lot of toxicity around like influencer culture as
Yes.
well.
Yes. Yep.
Yeah. So, okay, I do have a question that based on something you brought up. So you mentioned that you were writing a paper against veganism.
Yeah, I wrote it and I turned it in, and I think I got an A on it or whatever. But looking back, it was just an incredibly low IQ paper. Not good.
Yeah. Gotcha. That's so interesting. Yeah. And like being someone who is a deer hunter turned vegan, which weirdly enough, you're the second hunter turned vegan that I've interviewed on this podcast.
Oh wow.
Yeah. I thought it was going to be a lot more rare, but it's like so far 30% of everybody I've talked to.
Yeah.
Yeah. But like, what was like your family's reaction?
Well, at first, my mom, because I always was really into like lifting and stuff. Now I'm more into powerlifting, so I'm like a little bigger and not as shredded as I used to be. But I used to like really watch my diet and like, try to stay as lean as possible. So my mom thought it was just like another diet, like a crazy wacko thing. She's like, Hunter, this is too far. This isn't healthy for you. You need to eat meat for iron and protein and your nutrition and all this stuff. And I'm like, look, Mom, I looked into it. You can be perfectly healthy on a vegan diet. It's nothing to worry about. So she was a little weirded out at first. Obviously my whole family being like big deer hunters and stuff, they pretty much just thought I was just like being weird hippie dippy, just they thought it was just a phase type thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hey, mine too. Yeah. I mean, if you could imagine, like, I'm not a big dude, like where you train powerlifting and grappling. Like I train yoga and cycling, like
Heck yeah.
different body types for sure. But like when I was first going vegan, my family's entire reaction was like, you are literally withering away in front of our eyes. What is
Yes.
happening? And
Yes.
it was one of those things where it was like, my story, which I've said many times, I'll just give the super short version. I used to weigh about 230 pounds, but not a healthy 230. Like I was sedentary. I was like overweight. Like when you look at pictures of me, it looks like I got stung by a bee. Like I was just ballooned up everywhere. And like I went from that to like 155, like trim, which is a little lightweight for me, but like I went from 225, 230 to 155 in a matter of about 6 months. And literally, yeah, what else happened? I used to have type 2 diabetes. I don't anymore. I used to have sleep apnea. I don't anymore. I used to have high blood pressure, which I don't anymore. It's crazy, like the transition. Awesome. That was awesome. But like my family's viewpoint of it was like, oh, that's great that you're not like dealing with diabetes, but like you're not going to be here in like 2 weeks. Like I guarantee you. I was like,
And you know what's funny? I can guarantee you if you would have lost the exact same amount of weight on a keto diet, they'd been like, oh, good for you. You're looking so healthy, blah, blah, blah. But because you lost weight on a vegan diet, they're like, oh, you're looking a little malnourished there, don't you think? Under eating, not getting enough protein, a little protein deficient,
That's like always what happens. I kind of feel like I became like somewhat of an expert in just defending my like stances on things.
Have to.
Just yeah, because it was around the dinner table at Thanksgiving, and I'm the guy that's like eating like cauliflower and kale and potatoes and rice and all these things, and everybody else is just like, they're just like, God, what? It's so extreme.
Yeah, so they press you, and then you defend yourself, and then they're like, why are you always talking about veganism? It's like, give me a break.
Right. Oh
Yeah,
man.
that's vegan experience 101. It's awesome.
Yeah, absolutely. So anybody who's thinking about becoming a vegan, just know that that is part of it.
Yes.
But
Yep.
I promise it is well worth it to anybody that is considering it. So I've also noticed, looking at a lot of your content, just seeing you here, you are a heavily tattooed individual.
Yeah.
Yeah, totally not vegan question. Do you have any like particular favorites?
Yeah, I do. I actually have a back piece. It's a huge back piece, covers like half my back, and it says respect existence or expect resistance. And it's
Oh
basically a
shit.
bunch of like farmed animal skulls. That's probably my favorite one. But another vegan tattoo. I got my "Until Every Cage Is Empty" one right there.
Right.
So
Yeah, yeah. I actually did notice in one of your videos, I saw kind of the tail end of the cage is empty tattooed on you. So I've got to ask, where did the whole moniker of like empty cages come from?
Honestly, no cool story about it. I was just like I said, or I told you earlier, I guess before we started recording, I used to do debates on TikTok. I would do debate lives, and I would average 1 to 3,000 concurrent viewers at once just watching me debate veganism. And I would just wreck all these carnists, and like obviously they would get super butthurt and super mad. And I had my real name as my handle, so I would get death threats all the time. I would have people doxing me all the time, which is one thing, but they would also dox my family. They'd get my family's address. They would send it out. They would like paste it on all my comments. I'd block that. They'd make new accounts. So eventually I had to change my name from my real name to something else. And I just thought empty cages popped in my head, and I thought it was kind of cool. So
Totally. Yeah, I mean, honestly, similar story to Made of Plants for me is I was just like, I don't want to use my name. And it's like, if you are what you eat, then I guess I'm made of plants. All right, that's fine. Plugged it in. It wasn't taken, and off to the races. Yeah. But that's awesome, though. I do like that moniker. It's a little bit more hardcore than Made of Plants, but like I have a sense, I just have this feeling because, me growing up in like the music community and things like that, like, are you a fan of like hardcore music?
Me, a little bit. I actually mainly listen to country music. Country
Really?
music, which as a vegan, I find most vegans don't like country, so that's a little different. But I do listen to some hardcore music, some metal. I
Okay.
like Con, um,
Sure. Yeah. Those guys are
Knocked
hometown. Yeah.
Loose. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Because I actually am from Texas myself. So it's, yeah. But yeah. Oh, man. That's really funny. Because like I saw like on like a lot of your videos and stuff, you had like the hat that's got like it almost looks like a metal band logo
Yeah.
or something. I was like, this dude's going to be super into metal, like guaranteed. That's so
No,
funny.
yeah,
Though.
I am a little bit. I go to. I have a buddy who's a huge metalhead. I'll go to metal shows with him here and there. That's actually where I got that hat from.
Oh, gotcha. Okay. So you dabble in the metal, but that's interesting though. And the geographical location that you're at, you're in Michigan, is that right?
Michigan, yep.
Okay, so rural kind of Michigan around Grand Rapids, if I'm not mistaken, like kind of outside.
About an hour north.
Okay. Yeah, gotcha. Now, with being in more of like that kind of out there location, a little bit more rural, like what have you noticed have been like the biggest challenges with like sustaining a vegan diet? Or are there any like benefits that you found that have been kind of hidden in that?
Well, as far as challenges, as far as the eating goes, there's no challenges at all. It's super easy. I mean, maybe at first, obviously, you're used to eating one way your entire life, and then when you change that up, of course, there's gonna be challenges at first. Once you get used to it, super easy. Even out here, the biggest challenges are just dealing with basically morons who find out you're vegan. They get super defensive and basically really weird about it. So that I'd say that's the biggest challenge. But
yeah, it's always been. I mean, gosh, probably one of the biggest challenges for me is because the thing that happens when you're a vegan and you tell people that you're vegan, you just open things up, but you're also the person that's holding the mirror, kind of exposing the choices that person is making. So if they are uncomfortable with those choices, you're typically the first to hear about it, to feel it, it's just a lot of that projection. Yeah. All right. So I also saw a video that you made where you were responding to the founder of the carnivore diet. For those that don't know, this guy named Sean Baker. and he was asking why anyone would ever want to eat lab-grown meat. So as a vegan yourself, like, what are your thoughts on lab-grown meat? This is a super divisive topic.
Yeah, I'm fine with cultured meat because, like, the reason I'm vegan is just purely for the animals. I want to end animal agriculture. I think the situation they're put through is just horrendous. I have 2 rescue pigs myself. They're so sweet and innocent. And just to think of, like, these sweet, innocent, sentient beings just, like, being forced in farrowing crates where they can't even move, they can't even turn around, they live in their own feces, being forced into gas chambers, having their throats sliced open. It just disgusts me. And so if cultured meat is a way to end that, like, I'm all for it.
I am right there with you, which I know I think it freaks so many people out because I think they just don't, understand it. It's just not traditional, which,
Yes. Yep.
We only are comfortable with the things that we know that already exists.
Yes,
so,
exactly.
Yeah.
It's kind of like people get kind of like ooga booga caveman, like this is new, this is different. It's kind of like resisting like a rubber tire because you're used to using like stone tires or something like that. Resisting cars because you're used to like the horse and buggy. It's just a superior technology. People aren't used to it. They don't know. But it's exactly molecularly the exact same as like meat you would eat from an animal. So if you can get that without putting animals through horrendous, torturous conditions, why would you not do that?
I hear you. It's exactly how I feel. Like when lab-grown meat comes out, like I'm probably not going to eat a lot of it, if much at all, because like I, am also
Kind of
vegan
grosses
for
you out
health.
a little bit being a vegan for 10 years,
And it's one of those things. It's funny. I'm also that really weird vegan that's like, even though Impossible Meat exists, even though Beyond Burgers exist and they're delicious and I've tried them, I will be that guy that's like, oh, you've got a black bean quinoa burger. Like, I'm going to be the one that's ordering that over like the meat replacement purely for the fact that I've actually developed a taste for it.
Yep.
It's not even like a conscious like health choice. It's just kind of like actually weirdly just tastes better to me.
Yeah, I find your taste buds are really, really adaptive. Like at first, when like I first went vegan, I was like, man, these bean burgers are trash. But the same way after now, I've been vegan for like 7 or 8 years, somewhere around there now, and like yeah, I'm the same way. Like I don't mind a good like black bean or lentil burger because my taste buds have adapted to it, and it tastes good to me now.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's something crazy happens to you when you stop just like lighting up all these like parts of your brain with, whatever it is, like the additives that you find commonly in food, especially like the fast food and stuff like that. And it's like, yeah, when you switch over to a cleaner kind of like plant-based, or even like if you go down like the Whole Foods plant-based kind of route, like your taste buds 100% change. I actually got to a point where my wife jokes around and she says that I'm like a level 12 vegan because like I don't use like a lot of salt on my food because I just I just got to a point where I was like, I don't really need it or whatever. And now it's like if I put salt on my food, it's like too much.
Wow,
crazy! I know.
That's amazing. Yeah. I can't say the same for myself. I love salt.
Right, which is like totally fine, no big deal. But yeah, it is funny. My wife gives me trouble for that sometimes.
That's funny, yeah. An analogy I like to make for how taste buds adapt so much is I'm a big beer drinker myself. And I'll try a new beer and I might not like it, but if I keep drinking that beer, I'll eventually like it and it'll become like my favorite beer. It's kind of the same. I don't think people realize like how easy it is to adapt our taste buds.
Yeah, interesting. Okay, so then I've got to ask you about this too. So I've never been like a big beer drinker, which I wish I was. I'll be totally honest. Like, cause like, being a cyclist, like, you go for a long ride and then everybody meets up at the brewery and then, everybody has a beer and that's great. And it's like, I want to join in on that. Here's the thing. The beers that I have liked have traditionally been like, I like lagers. Like they generally sit well with me. So it's like, something like a Stella or like even, gosh, like it's just like lighter flavored beer. So even like a Shiner Bock or something like that I generally do well with. But like if I am a guy that's going to a brewery, like what direction would you like point me in?
I'm a bad person to ask for that because I don't drink like the lagers and IPAs, and so I'm more of a domestic beer guy. I just drink Coors Light and Busch Light. So I'm
gotcha. Okay, I hear you. All right, let's see. Oh God, we got to talk about this. So Lizzo recently came out and announced that she was no longer vegan.
She did.
Yeah, I've just got to ask. So what is your take on this?
I mean, obviously, I think it's terrible. I think she's incredibly influential. I don't think people realize how much influence people like this have. I think it'll result in a lot of more animals being forced into gas chambers and having their throats sliced open because people follow their favorite celebrities. I also don't think she ever was vegan in the first place. I think she was plant-based. I make a distinction. Just because you eat a plant-based diet doesn't mean you're in it for the ethics, right? Veganism, to me, is an ethical stance against the exploitation and rights violations of animals. So I don't think she ever cared about that in the first place. So, yeah, that's kind of my take on it, I guess.
I hear you. Yeah, and it's funny too because I've talked to a number of people that kind of exist on the vegan spectrum just in producing this podcast, and it's interesting to see like how everybody kind of makes their distinctions. But like I find myself kind of in between because like I'll always have a soft spot in my heart for like the health vegans because I started as a health vegan, and it was the thing that actually opened my eyes. I will even say for the first 6. Maybe not even that long, but for the first couple months where I was, eating a plant-based diet, I did not initially care about like the animal rights side of it. Like I was just like, I'm just, eating plant-based, and I didn't even call myself vegan. But it wasn't until I saw like Gary Yourofsky do his like infamous speech, which if no one's checked that up, please do. That dude is a genius. But and like really started looking into it, that I was like, oh my gosh, like there is this massive injustice, which is then when I finally got the vegan tattoo is, I was like, okay, I was plant-based before, but after doing this for, 6-8 months, however long it was, I was like, this is vegan. And that's now where it's like for life. So it's like, I guess that did kind of unlock that side.
Yeah, and I could see where that would, because if you are eating plant-based and you realize like you can be perfectly healthy eating plant-based and stuff, then it's just gonna more easily click like, oh yeah, like why are we like, it's kind of messed up what we're doing to animals. Where like if you're eating meat, you don't want to give it up because you think it tastes good, you don't think you can be healthy as a vegan, like you're gonna be less likely to, your mind's gonna block that out, right? You're not just gonna be less likely to care about stuff like that. So
yeah, I gotcha. All right, perfect. So I've got this idea, something that I want to do with you here. So this is going to be an exercise in excuses. You have been really incredibly well-versed in responding to comments that I've seen, like especially on TikTok. Watching your comment responses is fantastic. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you kind of like the common things that we hear as vegans, and just going to line them up for you, just knock them out of the park. Just let me know your response to these types of common comments.
Yeah. Right. I might be a little rusty on my feet. I haven't been doing my debate lives lately, but I'll do my best.
No worries. Yeah. All right, let's dive in. Okay. So vegan is extreme.
Yeah, I mean, people can say that, but what I think is extreme is forcing innocent sentient beings into gas chambers, hanging them upside down, slicing their throats, forcing them into Fairway crates where they can barely move, live in their own feces. I think this is extreme. So
yeah. All right. So listen, Hunter, that's great that you're doing vegan. I mean, what works for you. But I think everyone has like different dietary and nutritional needs.
Yeah. So the largest group of nutrition experts on the entire planet, they're called the Academy of Nutrition and Dietetics. They're a nutrition organization with over 100,000 certified nutrition experts, and they state, after reviewing all currently available evidence, they state in a peer-reviewed statement that the vegan diet's healthy at all stages of life. You got the Adventist Health Study 2, which shows that vegans have the lowest cause of all-cause mortality. You have the vegetarian cohort with 11,000 participants that show after a 12-year follow-up, vegans had the lowest rates of death. So the research and scientific consensus is just on our side.
Boom. That's great. Also, quick shout out. Did you just pop in a little Zen?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Nice.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. How do you like those? I haven't messed with those.
I like them. I got hooked on them a couple of years ago. I try not to go too overboard with them, but when I'm talking to someone like this, having fun,
Absolutely. Yeah. Like by all means. Yeah. God, so are those like nicotine pouches? Is there any tobacco in them?
No, no tobacco. It's just
No tobacco, just
pure
the nicotine.
basically.
Okay. Gotcha. And it's like nicotine and then like some other stuff in there
Yeah,
too?
just like salt, a little bit of flavoring, and that's
okay.
it. I don't recommend doing them, so don't.
Right. Officially, and all that. But
I'm not a health vegan, okay?
Listen, this is why I've got you on. I've had many like health vegans that I've talked to. It's like we needed to reset the palate with a little zen and a little bit of salt, and like it's all good. Yeah. All right. Let's see. Let's keep going down here. But I only eat grass-fed, free-range, organic. Fill in the blank.
Yeah. So I think at the end of the day, these are all words that just make us feel better, because I don't see why what your victim eats makes it any better to force them into a slaughterhouse, slice their throat open, force them into gas chambers. These at the end of the day are just words to try to make us feel better, like humane, right? What's humane about slicing throats when you don't have to and you can be perfectly healthy on a vegan diet?
But like, what about the fact that like I gave the animal a good life? The animal lived a good life.
Right, yeah. So I think some of the animals that are given best lives in America are cats and dogs, right? Our pets. I give my dogs an amazing life. I highly doubt that if I took my dog on screen and just like sliced his throat open, everybody would be like, oh yeah, that's fine, because the dog was given a good life first, right? You're still violating their right to life. They still have the preference to live and be happy, and you're taking away the right to life from them.
You know, I actually use the same comparison when I used to work at this like health food store. I was like the manager of a health food store, and it was like Thanksgiving time. Everybody's like ordering their turkeys, right? And like there were so many people that came into our store that ordered their like I forget the words that were used, but it was like free range-ish or like whatever it was, and like on the packaging, it was like these birds have access to X amount of square feet of like grazing space. They are fed a natural diet, like et cetera, et cetera. And we were just a bunch of us were talking in the break room one day, and I made that same exact comparison. I'm like, you know, like we can feel great about the life that they've had, but that doesn't actually justify the fact that we're about to end their life. It's kind of like, you know, someone could say, oh, Andrew, you just had your daughter, right? And I'd be like, yeah. And they'd be like, congratulations on your daughter. I'm really glad you got a chance to reproduce and have a really good life. We're going to go ahead and kill you and eat you now. Like, it would not be.
No.
Yeah, it would not be accepted.
Really think about it.
It really, really is. Yeah.
Do you know who Michael Vick is?
Was he the football player?
Yeah, he was a quarterback. He was really good. He got caught for fighting dogs.
That's right.
Justifiably upset about that. Just imagine if Michael Vick got caught fighting dogs and his response was, well, I gave him a good life first. Like, I treated him good before I fought them to death. Nobody can accept that. It's a psychopathic thing. And I think the reason these excuses come off as like, I don't know, justifiable in people's minds like this is because they don't really see animals as victims. They kind of see them as objects, so they can kind of just throw shit at the wall and hope it sticks because they're not really thinking about their interests. They're just trying to make themselves feel better.
Yeah, it's very true. You know, it's funny too because one of the things that I actually really liked. So I did a real deep dive on your content. Like I went all the way back to the beginning, and even saw there was this one video just for anybody who wants to see this man in a dress. There's this one video,
fantasy football,
yeah, that it was like I suck at fantasy football or something like that. Oh man, that made me laugh. Because I mean, you know, we're all yeah. But you had this one video and it got like 1.4 million views or something like that. And it was like the way that you structured it was like, I'm gonna tell you a scary story. And if you have a weak stomach, like don't listen to this. And it was basically like one night you were hanging out with a buddy of yours, decided to take this back road. And while going down this back road, you smelled this awful putrid smell, and you live in the backwoods. So you're familiar with manure, farming, all that kind of stuff. But you're like, this was different. And you're like, you came up to this house and there was a bunch of dogs, and they were like, wading through their own feces, and it didn't have any teeth, and it just smelled like death. And they had numbers painted on them as if we were about to eat them. And you called the cops, and the cops come. And the cops came and they said, oh, it's only pigs. And you, like, driving that home, 1.4 million views. Very few people actually liked the post, which I thought was very telling.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And a lot of the comments, like, of course, some of them were like, this is how the food chain goes, kind of a lot of the same excuses that we see. But lions eat meat, all that. And then there was this one guy, and this guy actually stuck out a lot to me. And he said, you got me on that one. Yeah, and I was like, and I saw that you liked that. And I was like, that's really cool. I was like, that actually...
You just got to kind of put it in perspective for them. Yeah, that's exactly what I did. I said it was dogs because everybody, I'm sure, watching like, oh, this is so evil, this is so wrong. And then at the very end, I said, oh, did I say dogs? I meant pigs. And of course, then all of a sudden the gears start turning. It's like, oh, you know what I mean? It's like same exact story. Why are your feelings about it different? Just because the victim looks a little different, it's crazy.
Yeah, it is. And like when I saw that, and I saw that you liked that one person's post or the comment where you said, you got me, I was thinking about that. And I'm like, you know what, that's actually really interesting to me, because it's, the initial instinct and reaction that a lot of people have to hearing that is like, kind of, how dare you? Like, that is so, I was like, that is so obscene and gruesome that I'm going to block it out of my mind and never thinking about it again. But the fact that there was that one guy, maybe more than one, hopefully, but there's the one guy that was like, oh, you got me on that, was like, he was able to actually zoom out on that circumstance, which is like, I was so impressed with that. It just made my heart happy. So I also gave him a like on that comment.
Yeah, and that's the goal at the end of the day, right? You're not going to be able to reach most people. Most people are ignorant. Most people aren't going to care. But you're just trying to reach a few people. You're just trying to make a difference in any way you can, and that's just all you can do at the end of the day.
Oh, 100%. Yeah. Oh, yeah. All right. To kind of wrap things up here a little bit. So I do want to touch base on like kind of like your training regimen. You do post a lot of videos talking about like your protein intake per day. So like, what does, like, let's say if on this particular day you're going to be doing like powerlifting, training, grappling, things like that. What does like a typical day of eating look like for you?
It's different every day, obviously. A lot of times I'll wake up in the morning and I'll try to start off with just getting something in my stomach right away before I go train grappling. So I like Just Egg a lot. It's kind of expensive, but like if you can afford it, it's high in protein, really, really good, easy to make. And you can actually make a cheaper version if it's too expensive for people. It's really all it is just mung beans, and you can like make your own. I don't do that because I'm
really?
Yeah. Then I eat quite a bit of mock meats, just because they're high in protein, they're easy, they taste good. Do you know what Boca crumbles are?
Yeah, it's like the company like Boca Burgers and stuff like that, but they make like a crumble.
Yeah, they just make a crumble. It's like basically just like soy crumbles. Those are pretty cheap actually, and they don't have a lot of taste to them, but like that's why I like them, because they taste however you make it, right? Whatever seasoning and sauce you add with it, whatever food. It's just meant to be a filler, right? Like you can just throw it in chili or throw it in spaghetti. And in the same way, meat really is just a filler to be more satiating and get your protein in. Boca crumbles do that same purpose. So I eat a lot of those. Tofu, I was on a big tofu kick for a while. I used to hate tofu, then I learned how to cook it. Literally, you just got to bread it up, cook it in oil, throw it in sauce. It's great.
That could be such a big difference. Yeah, like tofu is exactly that. I always tell people like, this might not be the most appetizing words that I could use, so forgive me for this, but it's kind of like a sponge. And the first thing you got to do is you just got to wring out the sponge. And then that way you can fill it back up with all of what you want. So you can, get a tofu press. That's a game changer for anybody listening. Tofu press. Press it for minimum couple hours, leave it overnight, pop it in the freezer. Some people do that. But press the tofu, get all the water out of it. And then what you can do is marinate it. And that's where, for me, the magic happens with tofu.
See, I haven't edited it yet, so I'll try that.
Yeah. I'll have to I'll make a video with a recipe one day. I'll send it to you. It's it's like I'll get like it's the no chicken like bouillon cubes or whatever they are, and like I'll make like a really condensed like chicken broth kind of a thing, and then with the tofu after it's pressed, you literally just put it into a little bag, stick it in the fridge overnight, and it just like It's delicious, like crazy good.
That sounds good. You know, another tofu kind of trick I've been doing. This is super easy. Is you just get the silken tofu. Instead of like usually I eat the super firm, obviously for stuff like we're talking about right now, high in protein. But I'll get the silken tofu and I'll just kind of cut it up so the sauce can soak in it. I'll cover it in some like chili flakes, a little bit of like hot oil, and then some like Japanese barbecue sauce, and then you can just throw whatever vegetables on top of it, you know, peppers, cucumbers, avocado, whatever, and just eat it just that way. It's super quick to make, high in protein, and pretty good.
Yeah, I love it. I haven't messed with the silken tofu that much. I used it like once or twice, but I like blended it up in like some sauces or something like that.
I think that's what people do. That and desserts. They make a lot of desserts.
Yeah. Oh, that's right. Yeah, I made like a chocolate pudding or something like that. It was pretty good. Yeah, I liked it. But yeah, man, tofu, one of the most misunderstood foods, especially in the West.
It really is. Yeah. Most people sleep on it. And that's my selling point too. It's like, it doesn't sound like a good selling point at first. Like, look, the reason I like it is because it doesn't taste anything. But that's what makes it good. It tastes like whatever you cook it with.
Yeah, which honestly, I mean, a lot of meat kind of falls into that category too. It's like no one eats just like plain chicken. You know, they don't eat plain like beef.
It's how you cook it and season it and put what sauces you add with it. Yeah,
exactly. Yeah, which is, you know, another thing that a lot of people forget too is like, you know, seasonings matter on your food. If you don't season your food, guess what? No matter what you eat, tastes really bland.
Yep. And I'll tell you what, I think the biggest slept on like vegan protein is seitan. Seitan is like extremely high in protein, and it's really good if you know how to make it, like incredibly good.
Yeah, my wife makes like a killer seitan, and it's like she uses like the Bob's bread mill, just like the Vital gluten flour, and like, oh man, yeah, and yeah, she makes it super good.
You'll have to send me that recipe, man, because I'm lazy, dude. I'm a busy guy. I just buy the shit from the grocery store.
Yeah,
but I really do want to make my own homemade seitan, because some of these homemade seitan recipes I see, they look so good. They look so good.
Like they really are. When you do it, it's kind of like the difference between like fresh bread and like store-bought bread, which I mean, I guess kind of makes sense in a way too, because it is like a wheat product, but it's like when you make it fresh yourself, there's just some complexity, some life that's in it that's so good.
Exactly.
Yeah. It's like, oh man, my like the best like meal of food that I've ever had my entire life was Valentine's Day 2017, I think. And it was in Philly at this restaurant called V Street. And if you're listening, V Street, I miss you. Please come back to us. Yeah. And it was like it was like a 4-course meal or 5-course meal, and like they gave us these like fish tacos, like in air quotes, fish tacos.
Right.
And like my mouth just watered if you could hear that. Like it was like seitan and tofu together, like in the way that they made it was just like it was exactly how I remember like fresh seafood tasting, which was crazy and mind blowing. Like, I'm not sure what chemicals they used in that. I do not care to ask. It was delicious. It's like, please don't tell me. Yeah. But I mean, it's also one of those things where it's like kind of on that same topic. It's like, God, like the world is afraid of so many foods right now. Like I joked in a podcast like a week or two ago that like I feel like you could rob a bank with a banana because of the sugar, you know, and like everybody's just terrified of that. I was like, you could amplify that with seitan because of the gluten, you know. Like, it's wild. Now, do you ever like track your calories? Do you use like Chronometer or anything like that?
No, not. I mean, when I used to focus more on like just being lean and like bodybuilder type stuff, I did, but anymore, the only things I care about is just being as strong as I can be and like being good at grappling and tapping people out, and so I don't really care about that stuff anymore. I
hear you. You're going the Patrick Baboumian route. Go, like beat his yoke walk record.
Right. I wish.
All right, man. Well, I think that's probably going to be a good place to stop it here. Hunter, dude, thanks again for coming on the podcast. I really appreciate you just chatting. It was a really good time. You're welcome back anytime, of course.
Anytime.
Yeah, and let the people know that are listening, where can they find you?
Yeah, my main platform right now is on Instagram. It's just emptycages.vegan, and on TikTok, it's just emptycages.
Awesome. Well, everybody that's listening, by all means, please go follow him. It's definitely a worthwhile follow. Yeah, he says a lot of really interesting things. So
Appreciate it, bro.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, thanks again for coming on.
Absolutely, anytime.